So we know social media has taken off, it's a new buzzword, everyone's using it, but especially what I found actually on last week's show, even the conservative brands, for example, the banking sector, are making use of social media. So what about the guys that are not using social media? Do you think, Marion, that they are completely missing the boat?
That would be exactly what I would say. They've missed the boat. I think absolutely. I think maybe I come from that generation that's a bit technophobic. But if you're in the media industry, you cannot afford not to be involved in social networking. You're definitely going to lose out. I see it as a wave going further and further out to sea, and eventually you're not going to see it at all.
Your view on that, Nunu? Should it be part of every communication strategy, yes or no?
Absolutely. Each and every brand should be looking at what's happening in social media, not only just to participate in, but also to hear where consumers are going, what they're saying. We find that consumers are sharing a lot more in the social space than they used to before. So we learn a lot more. We're learning about trends. So it is absolutely important that brands are participating there and that they are absolutely aware what consumers are talking about, and that can only benefit the brand in the long run.
I think the upside here as well is that it's measurable, it's targeted,
absolutely,
no cost.
Absolutely.
So why not? But do you think it's a brand thing? Do you think some brands are afraid to be associated because it's new and it's hip and it's young? What is your perception?
No, absolutely. I'll tell you an interesting story. 702. And this was only about a year ago. Alistair Teeling-Smith, one of the main producers of John Robbie Show and so on, and he was approached about why not put your, to say who's coming on the shows and be involved in Twitter. And he said, no, we don't need Twitter. Come on. Someone said, look, just try it. And I think it was Archbishop Tutu was due to come on and do an interview with Reedy Direcco. So they put a thing out on Twitter. It was the very first one. Bishop Tutu is going to appear on this show, and as you said, it's, you can trace it, you can see how many people respond. Well, they had such an amazing response that now Twitter is a whole part of their brand, in fact, Twitter. And I think it's putting that toe in the water. I think people are scared to try it, they're scared, fear of the unknown. But once they get involved and they see the response. I still find it odd, though, when I get the email saying so-and-so is following me, and I think, why?
I think that said, I think there are a lot of brands that absolutely should be in the social space, but let's not forget where we are in South Africa. There are a lot of consumers that are not in the social space. So brands have got to be careful, make sure that the distribution is right, that yes, you're involved in social media, but there are a lot of consumers that are still using your traditional media. So the mix has got to be right. And sometimes what we're finding these days is that the media, one media is influencing the other. So the trend may start on Twitter, it goes back to the traditional media, or it may start in traditional media like television, and it ends up in social networking space. And that happens all the time, and you've got to watch that very carefully.
Will print still live in this digital era that we're going into?
This has perhaps been the biggest discussion in media for the last more than a decade. And I remember probably about a decade ago, the Print Media Association bringing out the head of the World Print Media Association. He was a Norwegian gentleman, spoke at a conference we had here and assured us all that print media wouldn't be affected at all in the next decade. Well, hello. It's a very difficult one. I know that we have major publishers here that do have faith in print media, but at the same time I also know that our major publishers, they are waiting. They've got so many projects just on the border there, waiting to come in, just waiting for the economy to turn. And really all of those projects that I know about are mostly, well, I'd say 9 out of 10, are to do with social networking online. I think the word online, available through the internet. And I'd like to go back and say something you said about Twitter, is what's fascinating about Twitter and news. I mean, in countries like Afghanistan, when there was the elections on and they weren't allowed to get news out, somebody twittered the news. Someone in Haiti can Twitter when the telecommunications were working. And that for me is so exciting, and it goes back to when CNN, it was so revolutionary, when CNN broadcast from a war for the first time. We all thought, wow. Now, nobody bats an eyelid, and I think 10 years' time, it's just going to be all one, no one's going to think, our newspaper's going to die. Maybe, I mean, we know that there's been a lot of closures in America, a lot of major newspapers. But in South Africa, well, we'll see. I mean, certainly circulation and sales are down, and people are tightening the belts. But as you said, I still think there's a place for print.
Your thoughts on that, Nunu?
My thoughts are, as long as newspapers think of themselves as peddlers of news, they have a problem because we're getting news through so much media. So they've got to redefine what they're providing the consumer. It's not only news. By the time I get my newspaper the following day, I'm already on my cell phone and I've downloaded so much.
It's instant.
Which brings me to the next trend, which is, I think, in South Africa and in the rest of Africa, the cell phone, that unit, that handset, is going to be the screen of choice for all of us. So I'm not sure what the role of print will be, because we're already looking at about close to 90% of the people in South Africa have cell phones.
Yes.
I still love my paper in the morning with a cup of coffee, but I'm not sure if my kids do.
It's a habit. It's part of what you do. And I also think if we look at consumer print, people are brand conscious. They want, it's part of what you do. You know, every month you buy your Marie Claire or whatever. There we go, Marie Claire. Let's quickly look at sensational journalism, because that's always a topical one, isn't it? What is the fixation with it?
Oh, people love it. They love it.
You know, the tiger wood. Is it because it makes, we read about it, makes us feel better?
We're so much better than that. I think that's it. I mean, you know, you have to look at what publication sales are still right up there. Huisgenoot New, I mean, Huisgenoot, I think, is an average of circulation 350,000 something a week. And that tells you what people want to buy.
Yeah.
You know, they do love scandal. I mean, there's no question about it. Overseas, the biggest newspapers in England are the tabloids in America.
Sure.
And look at the Daily Sun. Now, that for me is a wonderful success story. And what do you have on the front page? Gay Tokolosh gave my wife and I AIDS.
But that's what sells, like you say.
That's what sells.
Any final thoughts? You have to go.
My final thought would be absolutely the space is changing every day. I don't think we have absolutely got to a point where we know where it's going to go, but I think from a mobile point of view there's some exciting opportunities in terms of reaching people, and not only your high-end market, which is where we are with social marketing right now, but in the next 2 to 3 years where it will be universal all over South Africa, and that is going to be totally exciting.